Welcome to Monday Marks. My name is Sharon Saccone, and today I'm going to share with you a little bit about acrylic skins. As a mixed media collage artist, acrylic skins can be a really interesting part of your collage practice. By creating really thin layers of paint that maybe you scrape or you paint very delicately and then layering it with gloss medium, the acrylic skins will just peel away and create beautiful transparent layers so that all of those little delicate areas with spaces in between just disappear into your collage. So it's a great layering technique, and I won't lie, it's a lot of fun. So come along and I'll show you a few tricks. This really is such a fun technique to try. And to make an acrylic skin, you can use any kind of acrylic, any kind of a gloss medium, a polymer, anything to create this. So what I'm going to be using is a High Flow Payne's Gray by Golden. So this acrylic is very fluid. It's going to be very thin. You actually have to give this a little bit of a shake, make sure that all of the pigment is mixed together. And what I've done is I've put this in a very fine liner. This is by Jacquard, and it's great because it has a super fine tip. And so I've already loaded it with the Payne's Gray. The only thing you have to be very, very careful with is you've got to press this really hard into the bottle, because once you start squeezing, you don't want that to come off. But this is a great way to get super fine lines into your artwork without drawing directly. So this is an indirect method. And I'm just gonna do some lines that kind of move over one another. And I'm doing this right now on a piece of plastic. Acrylic is a plastic medium. So anything that you can get this to peel off of is what you want. I also sometimes use my silicone mat. It used to be used for cooking. I don't use it for cooking anymore. It is strictly for my art materials. And you can see look at how thin that line is right there. And sometimes if you go a little slower, you might get it a little thicker. If I squeeze it out, I can get it to be a little thicker. So it just depends on the pressure and how much paint you're actually loading on. So I'm gonna move this to the side. So you can see this is just a piece of plastic. I'm gonna let that dry completely. And then I'm gonna do a couple coats of medium over the top of it. And that's going to keep it all together. So that's just a piece of plastic I did that on. This is my silicone mat. Like I said, I don't use it for cooking anymore. And I'm just gonna do a couple techniques here. I've got this is fluid acrylic. This is in green gold, also by Golden. And because of, I'm using this because of its transparency. And you can see how transparent or translucent the color is because you can see the black tick marks right through it. I'm also gonna use turquoise phthalo. This is also fairly translucent. You can see the black tick marks coming through this too. So these are going to work really well if you want to see through your layers. And I'm going to use some, on this one, I'm going to use some Catalyst wedges. This is W03, this one is W04, and these are by Catalyst. And they have just different, they're called like a comb, and this is a silicone material. I also have this one. I think this was by Gelly Arts. Maybe I might have purchased it, you know, with some jelly plates. And by the way, your jelly plate will work well because it's, you know, the acrylic is going to peel right off of that surface as well. So anything that the acrylic doesn't stick to, that will work. Looks like I had a little something on my wedge there. And what I'm going to do for this one, I don't even think this bottle's been open yet. It has not. Little plastic on there. probably good enough to get it out anyway. And I'm gonna put this down, and then I'm gonna use a brush and actually I'm gonna get a bigger brush. I'm just gonna smooth this out a little bit. Some of that paint, it's so interesting because I think I used this mat at one time for food. You can see how it's actually separating into these holes, which is just so cool. I can't wait to see what that looks like on an artwork. But you can use these wedges and create beautiful marks. And, you know, if you don't like it, just spread it back out. So I can create some interesting line. You can just pull it in different ways. I'm going to use some of this phthalo. I'm going to let that mix with this green. That's going to make a beautiful color. Look at how that is separating. It's so interesting how it's making these beautiful holes. I'm like loving these little areas. I kind of want to make sure I can use them. So let's see. You know, you can create all sorts of movement. And these are just things that, you know, might be difficult to get in my artwork itself if I didn't do a technique like this. So it's a really fun way to work with paint and create some interesting marks in your skins and then layer them over top of your collage. So I will show you that when I get to the actual art making piece. But this is really cool. I think I'm going to leave that. I think I'm going to actually come in here with some of this. Yeah, that's going to be beautiful. It's just different marks that would be a little bit more difficult to get if I were trying to paint this on. And this is so forgiving because I can change my mind a million times if I want to. So I've got a lot going on here, but that's how I start my skins. And then I'll show you once this is completely dry, we're going to go over this with some gloss medium, polymer medium. I don't like to use the matte medium as much. I tend to like the glossiness that you can get with skins, but any kind of medium that is layered thickly over this and allowed to dry will allow you to be able to pull off, and you will be able to see through all of this, and you'll just have some beautiful line on top. So let's let this dry completely and then we'll come back. Now that this is completely dry, I can go ahead and start adding some medium over the top of it. I like to use thinner layers and do multiple layers, just so that I know everything is really dry in between, and then I want it to be thick enough that it will peel right off. So that's why I do a few layers. This is just a polymer medium gloss. I don't believe any difference between gloss medium. It's just something I've had for a really long time. So you're not going to find this in the stores anymore, apparently. So it's fine. It doesn't matter. Any kind of medium will work over top of this, but I want it to be a crystal clear medium. And you know if your medium is going to be crystal clear because it'll have a clear square box on Golden Products. So that'll tell you that it's 100% transparent. So that is what we want, so that we're not blocking anything. And I just gently, I mean, it is dry. I did make sure it was dry. And then I'm just going over top of it. I had decided that I really liked the way this medium or the paint had kind of separated on this mat. I thought it was so interesting, so I decided to use it. Well, it looks like I got a little something thick in there. Like I said, I've had this medium for a long time. So I think I'm just getting a couple clumps, but I'll work those out. So you just have to go over it. And like I said, I like to do a couple thin layers and let it dry, completely dry, so that it's nice and clear. And then I go over it again with another layer. And sometimes if I feel like it's not as thick as I want it, I might go over it again. But just having these thin layers, I feel like I know it's dry. You'll know it's dry once it's crystal clear. Right now it's very cloudy, but once it's crystal clear, you don't have to worry anymore. It is dry and ready to be removed. So that's how you know. And I'm not going to do all of this, but I just wanted to show you how I go over it. So the next time you see this, I will be peeling it all off, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing with my lines that I created as well. So it'll all be a skin when it's done, and there is nothing more satisfying than peeling it off. All right, that's how you start your skins. These are dry, mostly dry. I'm a little worried about this area right here, but I'm a little impatient, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the skins off of the silicone mat. What's really good to have near you is I probably am going to need to cut some of this apart where it's attached to one another. And I also have some wax paper here to the side. The reason is skins cannot touch each other. They will immediately stick. So you have to make sure that you keep them separated. It's pretty easy to get it off the silicone mat, I have to say. A little bit easier probably than my other pieces will be, but you can see it just pulls right off. And you can now see a little bit more of the color that I have here because it's not on the dark edges. Now I'm going to pull, it will, again, you got to keep it from sticking to itself. So you want to make sure that it doesn't fold over on itself. And I can probably peel this whole skin off, it looks like, in one shot. Yeah, it was a little bit wet right there in the middle of that green, but it's not coming apart at all, so it's just fine. Now this is such a big piece, and again, I don't want it to stick to itself, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it right here. And this is why I say this is so much like collage, because you do the same thing with collage papers. You can cut, you can rip. And I'm going to use it just like a piece of collage on top of my artwork. So here's this piece that I've moved over. I got a little bit of stretch. I'm going to try to lay that down as flat as I can. A little bit stuck to itself over here, but I have some really good skins. So now this piece, I'm just going to peel this off. I think I'm going to need another wax paper. So when you store these, if you don't use them right away, you do want to have, palette paper works great. You can stick them to palette paper. All of that is perfectly fine. Oops, sorry about that. You just want to make sure that it doesn't stick to itself or anything else. This just stuck to itself. So that piece is going to be unusable. The thicker the skin, the less, you have to worry about handling it. This one, I really stuck it to itself. Okay, so there's those. And I'm just going to move this whole thing out of the way. And now I have this one. This one's going to be a little bit trickier because it's Number one, the material that it's on doesn't release quite as easily, but I wanted you to see both. And this is a really large single sheet. So I'm gonna have to be really, really careful. Yeah, it doesn't come off quite as well. So you can see how beautiful though, where it didn't rip, how this line works. I mean, it's such a cool way to transfer line as a collage that is 100% transparent. Ah, see, just wants to crinkle in on itself. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this out just so that I do have some usable pieces for my artwork, because that is definitely usable. So I'm going to move that over and see if I can get this off without trying to pull it off in all one piece. So this is why it's a good idea to test your plastics. Obviously, the silicone mat, not an issue in the least. It works so well. And I do know some people will use palette paper. Like I said, I think the gel plate would be amazing. I think it would just come right off. So I've got a little bit of usable, but you can see how much was left. So I'm a little disappointed in that. I've used this before, and I'll show you some images where I have used this, and it's worked out really, really well. So here's a couple of my usable skins that I'm going to now add to some artwork. So this is just a little test piece. You know, it's nothing, it's just a small 8x8 on paper. And I used some recycled envelopes because I wanted to have a really neutral background so that I wasn't really fighting too much with all of this. And what's great about these skins is that everything is going to show through 100% because this is crystal clear. So anywhere I put this line, I'm going to get all that other detail coming through. So the way you adhere these is using more medium. So it works out great because you're just using medium on top of medium, and it's all crystal clear. I'm going to use some gloss medium for this one, and just going to test out a few things. So I just love this line though. I'm a little disappointed it didn't come out 100% just to be able to use a little bit more of it, but it's great. So now we'll be able to see some of the color I have going here. Just gonna cut this one apart. Actually, I'm just gonna cut right through the wax paper. Make it even easier on me. I love wax paper when I'm working. Sometimes I use it as a palette. It's just so easy. And you can see here, if I use this piece, you know, all of this is showing through, but you're also getting some of the color. So that's why I wanted to have a really pretty neutral background so that I could audition things easily and see what was gonna work for me, what I liked, what I didn't like. Move things around, which is the beauty of collage, is that you can move things. Nothing is permanent until it's glued down, and even then, who cares? You can paint right over it. So I love that about it. So you can see how this on top, you can create more and more layers that are completely transparent. You can move them around, figure out what you want to do with them, where do they work best. What is going to give you the most interest. I feel like these almost look like flowers, which is so cool. I think I'm going to move this and cut this into a strip that I might put right in here. This doesn't show up very well where it's too busy, so I think I'm going to actually use this piece right where it is. I think I like that you can see that a little bit better. So I'm just gonna lift and cut. just like I would a piece of paper. And I will be able to save these because I've got this wax paper over here. Now this isn't glued down yet, so I will have to lift it off and put some medium. I'm being careful to not cut the artwork itself. I'm just going to move this back over to the wax paper. And then, like I said, this cuts so beautifully right here on, yeah, actually I like that, right here on the wax paper. I have to decide, do I like that rough edge? And I think I do. So I think that's going to go right there. And then I think I will use my line work. Oh, see, it sticks. I might use some of this line work. Maybe in both places a little bit. It doesn't have to fill the whole square, just maybe a little bit of it. Don't think I want this piece to hang over, so I'm going to cut this. I could also use a knife, an X-Acto knife, but this is working just fine for me. I can get it off no problem. Just trimming my edge. I think I'm gonna go ahead and glue these down just before anything else gets stuck. So I'm just using gloss medium, and I'll just attach it that way. It's so easy to do. I just need a paper towel. Get some of the color off of this. I like using these silicone brushes for my medium because I never have to worry about ruining a paintbrush if I use this. So that's a really, just a nice tip. Now this is already sticking pretty well, and I think it's because there's that little bit of wet medium. I'm just going to peel it back part way, put the medium down, and then lay it back down. Press that out, and I'm going to do the same thing over this way. So I'm just pulling it up about, oh, actually, I'm gonna end this here. I am always changing my mind. This is why I love collage, because you can change your mind so fast. It's so easy. Little trim, and I just cut down my paper. So I changed my mind, and in 2 seconds, it's done. So just gonna make sure that that's good and pressed down into that so we don't have any air bubbles. And now I'm gonna do this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay down the medium. Peel that right off. And I even can move this around a little bit because it's not really sticky 100% yet. I'm gonna leave that there. I can trim now or later, but I just don't want it to get stuck to anything at the moment. So that's why I'm gonna trim it right now. But a little edge is fine. So I'm just gonna make sure that's, again, stuck down. All right, and now let's use some of these lines and see what we can do with what I have available to me, because of course it didn't all stay. All right, I'm gonna cut off the parts that I know I can't use because they're all folded over on each other. And that way I'll have a nice clean edge too. And I do love when lines go off an edge. And I mean, I have this great mat, so nothing really, oh, see, it just sticks to itself so easily and so quickly. You really have to be very careful. And this one is very, very thin. I think I'm going to put it over here. If I had tried to draw this myself on my artwork, I wouldn't get these lines that, you know, go off the edge and still be able to see what's underneath. So that's a really important element that you can get with skins that I've really enjoyed working with this line like this. You know, this would have to actually have been a collage paper, but I had these abrupt ends that I couldn't really have if I were working, you know, directly on the paper. So that's why I love this so much, working this way, because I can really move things around. I wonder if this just wasn't 100% dry. It's so sticky. It just makes me wonder. Maybe that's why it just wasn't going to come off. I probably should have left it overnight. I'm just so not patient. So learn from me, wait overnight, give these skins time to really cure, and you'll have better luck than I did today. But it's just because, like I said, I am so impatient. I want this to go in here. Yep, I'm gonna do that. Hey, it is just sticking to me like crazy. Sticking to me, sticking to itself. I don't like this line. Because it's completely transparent, it's not even translucent, it's transparent. You can see 100% through it. You get so many options here. So this is really fun to play with, and I hope you'll give it a try and see what you can do. You can go right over top of this with anything else, because all it is acrylic. So you can paint on top of it. You can, now that it's, you know, adhered, it's not going to stick to anything else. It's just going to stick right there. So you can paint on top and do anything else with your artwork that you want to, that you know, would normally do. So it's just a really fun way to play and work with some design in a very different way. I hope you enjoy. So even though this was a really simple experiment and I was only working on a small artwork and just showing you some of the techniques, these can go so much further. I have made entire artworks and landscapes just using acrylic skins, and the layering qualities that you can get from them are so interesting. So it's a really fun thing to try, and I hope that you'll give it a try yourself and see what you can do with skins.